Okay, N2S, you have formed a 3-year partnership with NTT Data, and that's to support Virgin Media O2 across all their UK data center sites, I think. And the focus is on responsible decommissioning, resource recovery, and circular economy integration. I guess it'd just be good to start with a little bit of background as to, how this came about.
Yeah, we've actually been working with NTT for a while now, so it wasn't a new partnership. They approached us with the VMO2 opportunity, which was obviously of great interest to us, and was hit our sweet spot really on what we're about, what we do, and went into in conversations with them, and that led on to successfully moving forward on that one.
Okay, and from an operational standpoint, I mean, sounds like it's large scale data center decommissioning. What's involved and how does the approach differ, I suppose, from what we might call traditional IT asset disposal models, where you're perhaps dealing with much smaller quantities and less variety when it comes to the hardware that's being dealt with.
Yeah, I think from my perspective on offering a good service to our customers, that it all really starts with the survey. I do like us to spend a bit of time on that and telling the customer what they've got. Quite often they don't know what they've got. Probably shouldn't admit that, but it's a good starting point, and to get in the right level of professionalism at the survey stage is good. So it's a key part for me to make sure we do a great job on that. And our surveyors are very experienced. Lots of them have been doing this type of work for a lot of years. A lot of them are ex-engineers that have actually been there and done that as well, so they can walk into a rack, into a suite, whatever they're looking at, and know this is going to take me X amount of hours to decommission, the worth of it, what's involved in the decommissioning of it, what it needs to do a safe job for them as well. So it really starts at the outset of the survey, and then we offer as much information back to the customer on what they've got and how we're going to deal with it and what the worth of it is from a recycling perspective or a reuse perspective, because also from our experience that we have in this industry, we can quite quickly ascertain whether something's got a resale value rather than a recycling value. And following the waste hierarchy, we'd always look to resell first, and it works on all fronts really. It gives the maximum amount of value back to the customer. It's also better for the environment, and therefore gives a better carbon reporting back to the customer as well, because we're not having to recycle something, and it can just literally be sold on, and following all of the correct data sanitization.
Okay, and the program, it's your process, I think it's about 40,000 IT assets across these various data center sites. Um, I guess it'd be interesting to understand how you ensure things like chain of custody, data security, and compliance throughout the decommissioning lifecycle.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sort of repeating myself here, but going back to the guys that we're putting out in the field, they're a very experienced team. They follow everything to the letter of the law. We make sure that our statement of works are in place before and agreed with the customer. And there's lots of communication goes on as well from a sort of a project management perspective. We're very risk adverse to make sure that we've got that protection in place for the customers when we're on site. Everything's checked and double checked to make sure that it's safe to work on, both from a health and safety point of view and protecting the data point of view. All the correct sort of security clearances and things will be in place for the guys on site. We'll let everybody know when they're there. And it also goes through to the vehicles that we use. They're all our own vehicles, and they're all tracked. We can follow the kit on its journey, both metaphorically and physically as well. So we can see where we go with that. And then everything. So we have teams of engineers all over the country. We do that from a sort of customer satisfaction point of view to get deployed as quickly as possible, but also to reduce our carbon footprint of traveling unnecessarily as well. So when that kit is collected and the customer's happy for it to be released from site, it will come back to our Bury St Edmunds facility, where we're CASS accredited on there. up to and including secret level. We don't always need that, depending on the customer that we're working with, but having that there is a comfort blanket for lots of people that we work with. So making sure that we've got all of the right physical security in place to look after the customer's kit, right the way through from that surveying where we first seen it right the way through to end of life is very important.
Okay, and circular economy outcomes, I guess they rely heavily on asset triage and what you're describing. I guess that's partly that. But
Mhm.
are you able to share, give us some insight into how you technically assess whether equipment is suitable for reuse, for refurbishment, component halving? Or is it just down to the skill of the people, or is there a standard sort of set of tests, if you like, that you do on a piece of kit to decide where it is in that supply or that sort of circular economy? Yeah.
Yeah,
Side.
it's actually a combination of all that you've just said
Right.
there. There's an element of skill involved, and there are people here that can look at something and tell you straight away whether it's worth recycling or not. But it does then go through a process to make sure that we cover all that. We carry out constant analysis of the market as well, because things do fluctuate, and we want to make sure that we're getting the best revenue for our customers. So we're constantly monitoring that. And we have outlets globally that we work with, because something may not have worth in one region, but it does in another, and that actually moves around as well, where something becomes more and less valuable. So we make sure we do that, and then all of the systems and the procedures that we have in place that we make sure that all of the kit goes through to make sure that we get the best outcome for it.
And in terms of the processes used, I mean, I think bioleaching, urban mining, I guess they're fairly new in terms of you using the digital infrastructure environment. Can you give us just a brief overview of those? I guess they're biotechnology processes, how they work,
Yeah,
and
sure.
are they particularly suitable for certain materials to recover, yeah, just I
Yeah.
guess a bit of overview of the processes and what they're good at, if you like.
Yeah, so we sort of take the approach as I've already mentioned of trying to resale as much as possible, but when something is sort of end of life and that decision's been made, what we'll then look to do is parts harvest first of all, and is there anything within that kit and equipment that can be reused? So it's not just an all or nothing. We'll look to take what we can and do what we can with it. And so we get to the point where something has reached that level in its life where it needs to be recycled. We'll take the any circuit boards and RAM or anything any precious metal containing materials, and that will then be moved on to the bioleaching process, which is actually in the same building that all of the kit comes back into, so it doesn't have to actually leave the premises at all, which is good from a security perspective. So that will then be granulated. So we need to get into into the metals and release them from where they're currently sitting. So we grind them down to do that and granulate them. They'll then go into the bacteria, and what the bacteria will then do is to actually solubilize what's called the base metal, so your copper and nickel and that type of metal there, because copper is the enemy of precious metal recovery. It's there in everything, but it delays the process and stops the process from happening. So it's a win-win situation in the fact that we're able to extract this or solubilize and then electro-win the copper out of the solution, which obviously has a revenue, and again, metal markets are all on the up, so it's a good thing to do. But it also enables us to then get to the precious metals that are there afterwards. So first process, get the copper out, get that refined, get that sold and back into the industry, and then enables us to work on what we call the PMs, the precious metals. So we're currently extracting gold, palladium, and silver from the kit as well, which we're looking to sell that back into the tech industry. And from a circularity point of view, if we can then take those precious metals and turn them back into new tech kit, you've completed the loop then, and that's what we're looking to do.
Okay, and just as a comparison with what we call conventional recycling and smelting,
Mhm.
I imagine there's some pretty good measurable environmental reductions with what you're doing around energy use emission stuff. Can you just give us some idea of how cleaner your process is compared to, I say, what other folks might be up to.
Yeah, sure. So traditional methods of refining would either be through burning. It would go into huge furnaces, and there's obviously a great amount of heat required to do that, and emissions that come with that as well. So there's the negatives on that side, or either using large volumes of acids to break down the metals is the other option. So they're really the two traditional ways of doing it. So the solution that we're offering into the market is neither of those. It's a much more environmentally friendly solution where we're taking what's there down to a small amount as possible, and then using our systems to refine them back out of where they were originally kept. So that's all done on site in this building here, and we're doing that very successfully for the metals that I've mentioned already, and we're now starting to look with the science team that we have in the R&D labs, is what else is in there. So we use analysis tools to do that, and we can start seeing now that there are rare earth metals present in circuit boards. So our next step on that journey is how we extract those and get those back into the economy, because they're not naturally occurring things all over the world, and there are certain countries that have the monopoly on that. Whereas if we can keep those within the UK and sell them back into the UK market, it then breaks down any barriers that we're currently seeing there.
Yeah. And in terms of how the process works, I imagine integration with live data center operations is critical, and
Mhm.
so it'd be good to understand how you minimize potential disruption and manage phase decommissioning, and also, I guess, maintain resilience, which is fairly important for the data centers, while assets are being removed and processed. Assuming that you're not just dealing with sort of mothballed or redundant data, you're going into the live environments and doing stuff. So yeah, just talk us through the process.
Yeah, of the two, the ones that are already mothballed and shut down are much easier to do, because there's
Yeah.
zero risk. So, so working in live data centers obviously has its risks, and as I mentioned before, we are very risk averse and won't touch anything unless it's been properly signed off. We work quite often with customers, they're sometimes known as client reps, where we'll go into the data centers with the employees of the data centers and physically go through step by step and then log everything. We've created survey sort of software where the guys have iPads with everything photographed and listed on, with the serial numbers on there. So we'll scan the equipment first to make sure it matches with the survey that we've had previously approved. And it's a two-way thing really with the customers to give them confidence that we're only going to take the kit that they've ticked to say that we can take, and for them to be sure that it's stuff that they want us to do. There are risks, but we've got we've learned from mistakes in the past as well, and mistakes that we've heard of out in the field. So as an example, we'll only, when we're recovering cable, we'll only ever work from dead ends, and the guys have all the equipment to make sure that everything is dead before we work back and chop that back. So there's been lots of learnings over the years and improvements from issues. Where we've conducted sort of root cause analysis as to why things have gone wrong in the past, and then we've put the procedures and things in place to make sure that they don't happen again.
And the data center operators are clearly under pressure to themselves to report robust sustainability metrics. So, presumably you provide them with figures, stats around things like carbon avoidance, material recovery rates, waste reductions to help them when it comes to their ESG reporting, etc. Just yeah, can you tell us what it is you provide for them in terms of that kind of
Yeah,
transparency?
sure. Because we're doing such a finite methodology in our dismantling of the kit, when it comes back, it enables us to be sort of best in market in this. We can tell them right down to a rack, to a suite, to whatever we're working on at the time, exactly how much aluminium, how much steel, how much gold we've actually recovered. So anything, and because we have the ability to do that. We work with external agencies to come up with sort of industry agreed emission values for things. So how much is by recycling? Let's pick copper for example. So by not having to dig up tons of ore to do that, what is the saving? Or if you've resold something, what's the saving through that? So they're not numbers that we've just sort of plucked out of the air. We'll make sure that they're all sort of ratified and agreed unilaterally, that the numbers we're giving back are factual. From the Bioscope point of view, we're working with a company, a European company actually, to come in and say what these advantages are over the traditional methods, your hydro or your pyro way of doing things, which will enable us to get this really accurate back to the customer. And it's becoming more and more a requirement now. We've been doing this for 5+ years on the carbon reporting, and it was a nice to have for customers, but whereas now it's a requirement. Which is good from our perspective, and we've been working on it for such a long time. We've got good databases on how things work, and we also try and sometimes make it fun for the customers as well. And it's not just a number that doesn't mean anything. We did some work for a sports shoe manufacturer, and we equated it to number of pairs of trainers, and we've done some work for a telecoms company, and it's the equivalent to X amount of telephone boxes. So we try and do something. I say the word fun. It makes it interesting for them and makes them want to understand it as well.
And I don't know whether you can answer this, but I'll ask anyway. From NTT data perspective, I don't know if you know, they're involved in this sustainable decommissioning, but they obviously do lots of other things. So just wondering if you've got any idea how this program integrates with other digital infrastructure strategies they have. They do cloud migration, network modernization. Is it just something else they're offering their customers to get alongside them, and I don't know if there's anything you can share.
What I can share is the fact that I know it's very high on the agenda of NTT, the sustainability, and that's really how our first sort of introduction working with them came about, and it's something that both companies are very passionate about. And we have many and various conversations on the matter, and I think it's something that they like about us, and we like working for them as well because they are so passionate about it, and it runs right through their employees right from the top. And I think it's nice to see that we encourage the same here at N2S, and to get the guys involved as well, and understand what they're doing and what benefit it has. So it's a two-way thing with NTT, and I know that they'll be considering it on all of the projects that they're currently working on.
Okay, and maybe just finally, in terms of either technical innovations, process improvements, are there anything particular needed to scale what you're doing or wider circular economy practices across all the different types of data centers? You've got hyperscale colo, edge data center environments, or is the technology there and it's just a question of explaining and educating and convincing people that it is actually a good idea, if you like?
Yeah, it's definitely that last comment that you made there about the education piece, and there are some companies that need no education, whereas others need slightly more than they currently have. Uh, Again, there's been a shift where I've seen over probably the last 3 years or so that it was starting to get spoken about more, but it was never really followed through. It was a thing that some of the blue chip companies like to talk about but not actually act upon. Whereas there's a shift now, definitely. We're talking more to the sustainability teams of big companies, and they're really interested to come, and we'll do them tours of how we process things, how we handle things, and the sort of the reporting that we get back, and that actually matters now. It actually counts, whereas in the past it was probably a tick box exercise, if I'm honest. It's part of our RFPs now. It's a requirement that you can demonstrate what you're doing, how you do it, and you don't just tick the box to say you're doing it. You have to evidence you're doing that as well. So I've definitely seen a big shift there, and the more important it becomes for our customers, the more sort of impetus it will have as us as a company to improve on what we're doing as well.
And I guess just specifically on data centers, is this the first sort of large scale data center project you've been involved with? Because I mean, from my perspective, I've worked in the industry a while. They're obviously very risk averse for understandable reasons.
Mhm.
So I'm just intrigued as to whether this is, say, the first big large scale contract you've had in the data center industry, or you've already just your thoughts, I suppose, as to what you're doing for that space and how what the potential is, I suppose.
No, it's not the first large scale one we've done. We've got quite good experience in doing them, but probably the scale with the one customer is big in this example that we're talking about here. But we've done many data centers of that size, but for various customers. But the the opportunities I'm already seeing this year. I mean, we're only in February now, but there seems to be a lot more opportunities coming through, which we are being very successful in acquiring the work, and we're sort of actively looking at how we're actually going to cope with what's coming over the hill at the moment. So it's definitely positive in that regard.
Excellent. I mean, it's been great to chat, and thank you so much for sharing so many great insights as to the work you're doing alongside NTT. So, Rob, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.